With it promise, we'll get all sides to this particular matter. We spoke in the week with Senator Dino Melaye on this particular matter, the Treasury single account and issues emanating from that particular system. John Obara joins us now. He's the Managing Director of Systemspecs. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
We saw you writing that report. Very quickly, take us through the System Specs activities with the Treasury single account before we get to the matter on ground.
Thank you very much. In 2011, we were invited to participate in the process for the selection of a platform for the TSA. We bidded with a local company, and they looked at a foreign option, and we were selected for the assignment. We started with payments in January 2012. And that has been going on well. We started with about 116 MDAs, which has increased to about 900, and no problem with the payment side. The issues came when we were to start the collections. The collections were supposed to have started in 2013 January, but it didn't happen until the president gave an order early this year, the former administration. That was supposed to have started in March, but it started very slowly until September, October, when the president gave his order, and then we now had a spike. So that was where the issues started from.
So you differentiate between collection and payment?
Yes.
Would you kind of shed more light on that?
Now, payment is when government is paying out salaries, for instance, or to contractors. That has been going on, no problem.
So you help government with payment
yes.
out to contractors?
Yes. So salary payment for all civil servants, for instance, happen on the platform. And that's been going on until when collections was to start, which is government now receiving funds into her own account. That started, like I said, effectively in March.
This year?
This year. But there wasn't much traffic, because there was quite some reluctance and hesitation. MDA's accounts had not been closed in commercial banks, so people continued to pay into those accounts.
You know, to think that this didn't just start, that's amazing. No. Because a lot of people thought this came with this new administration when we talk about the TSA. And
the
you
new
say
administration gave it
the bid came as far back 2011, right?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
And you finally started in 2013.
January 2012 was when payment started. So we've been paying out and stabilized. Like I said, we started with 116 MDAs. It's gone up to roughly 900 now. But the collection leg had not started.
What's the essence of Systemspecs coming into the fray when we talk about paying out? Is it something that the government agency, or were there leakages somewhere that you were able to plug?
You see, the whole idea of TSA is that government should have control over a view of all the accounts. I mean, as at the last count, for instance, about 17,000 accounts have been closed. Okay. You can imagine trying to manage a system with 17,000 accounts. You don't know who has what where. So we've put in place a system to keep track of all the MDAs, the accounts that they have. It's still one account, but you're able to manage each MDA independently.
So were you shocked when, sometime this year, on the floor of the Senate, you heard Senator Dino Melaye speaking about, a company, Remita, collecting so much money for doing nothing?
Well, let's put it this way. We respect the role of the National Assembly in the oversight function. Okay. The way the motion came was a bit harsh, with all due respect, because we thought, some judgments were made before the full facts were available. But having said that, I mean, we've had the privilege of meeting with them to at least shed some light on what has been going on. So yeah, Senator Dino Melaye, who incidentally is my senator in the Senate, was right to raise an issue. The language may not have been right. I mean, I may not be comfortable with the language, but I think it's all right to raise issues of concern across any sector of the economy.
Now, what was it that caused the delay was if payments had been going on smoothly.
Yes, please.
How is it that when it was time to collect, you were having issues? Were the issues with the government, with the civil servant, the government, or with your system?
No. Obviously not the system. You see, when you're looking at payments, that's easier to handle. For collections, you're trying to now say all funds should come into one account where you're going to manage it from. Don't forget, banks were already keeping these funds before. So there's some change management you have to handle. Okay, banks were keeping these funds. They were trading with these funds. Okay, possibly lending back to government itself at 15%. Okay, so you have a number of issues that you need to manage to successfully transit from moving those accounts from banks into the central bank.
What was the agreement then you had with the government? The exact agreement you had with
the agreement we have with the government is to provide a payment gateway for the central bank to handle electronic payments and electronic collections.
So that we get, before we get to the matter, let's also, we'll come back to what Nyota has raised now.
Right.
You know, two issues came up so that we know if we're talking about two different entities here now. There was Remita, there was Systemspecs. But it is just you we've been talking to.
Right.
So tell us, is it one and the same or a different firm?
Systemspecs is a software house. We've been in business for about 24 years. We support Sun Systems accounting software. A number of people know that. And then we have Human Manager, which is a homegrown application. Now that manages human resources. We just name our products after what they do. Then we have Remita, which is for remittance of funds. So Remita is a product of Systemspecs. Remita is not a company. Remita is a product, a software platform. And that is what we now use for this TSA project.
So it's a platform that you've been able to develop, you say, and it is basically for collection and monitoring of revenue.
100% Nigerian developed.
So how has it been working when we talk about monitoring and collection of revenues for government?
Okay. One of the things we do, for instance, you have an account, you're able to monitor, or several accounts. On one screen, government is able to see the balance of all her accounts. So as many accounts as you have, you're able to run it and have a gross total so you know what the TSA balance is at any point in time. Before now, it's been difficult, in fact, practically impossible to know what your cash position is. Now you have a platform that can give you all of that at a go. Two, you can make payments out of that account. Each of the MDAs, they have approving officers. Okay, maybe 2, 3, depending on how they've been set up. Transactions go through those approval paths before the account is debited, and the beneficiary account is credited either in a commercial bank or in a microfinance bank. That's for the payments. And then you're able to keep a proper log of all the transactions. So you know at any point in time who approved what.